Welcome to African Mysteries, where ancient whispers, dark secrets, and untold legends come to life. These stories are based on folklore, real experiences, and cultural beliefs. Viewer discretion is advised. Let the mystery begin. In the heart of Sangoma Hills, a small town riddled with whispers and haunted eyes, lived a woman named Ayanda Molef. She was the kind of woman whose presence made the sun pause mid-sky, poised, deeply religious, then fiercely protective of her body and soul. For Ayanda, her body was sacred. She had vowed that no man would ever touch her until he became her husband. And so, when she met Malusi Dlamini at Holy Ember Ministries, her heart hesitated, her instincts twitched like a cat sensing an earthquake, but the pastor, Prophet Temba, insisted that Malusi was the one. The Lord himself showed me your union, Prophet Temba had said, wiping imaginary tears from his eyes like a prophet auditioning for daytime television. Ayanda, swayed by years of trust and the overwhelming reverence for spiritual authority, said yes. 6 months later, they had a church wedding funded largely by donations. Ayanda was doing well, she had a good job, a sleek apartment in the suburbs, and a modest car. Malusi, on the other hand, brought nothing but a suspicious smile and an eagerness to borrow everything she owned. He moved in, took over her car, and became obsessed with one thing, getting her pregnant. The man practically tracked her ovulation with the devotion of a NASA technician. 3 months in, bingo. Ayanda was pregnant. Malusi grinned like he'd just unlocked a cheat code in a video game. When she was 5 months along, Malusi gifted her something unsettling, that tattered the moth-beaten old dress. "It was my late mother's," he whispered dramatically. "She wanted me to give it to the love of my life. She'll bond with our baby through it." It looked like a cast picnic cloth dragged from a mass grave. But not wanting to offend, Ayanda pretended to like it. She avoided wearing it until his constant nagging wore her down. The very next morning, she woke up vomiting black bile. Shadows danced on the ceiling. Voices whispered in her ears, arguing in languages she didn't recognize. She saw people who weren't there and felt like her mind was slipping into hell's waiting room. Doctors broke her heart, her baby girl was dead. No blood in her body. Not a drop. She was induced into labor and gave birth to a lifeless child. Malusi, disturbingly calm, took charge of the burial and insisted she be buried at his ancestral home in the isolated village of Kwamthunsi. A backyard burial behind the house. How quaint. A few days later, Malusi came back grinning like a madman. "Surprise. We are moving." He took her to a huge mansion, lavish, cold, and entirely unearned. "Where did you get the money?" she asked, half expecting him to say he robbed a bank. His answer was vague, something about God's blessings and business breakthroughs. Whatever it was, he suddenly didn't want her working anymore. She stayed employed, needing something to cling to besides grief and mystery. When she became pregnant again, the nightmare returned. At 5 months, Malusi reappeared with a cursed dress. "But I threw it away," she murmured. He denied ever seeing it, grinning again. She wore it. And like clockwork, sickness, shadows, voices, paranoia. The second child, another girl, was born dead. No blood. Again. Now Ayanda's grief began to curdle into suspicion. Malusi, meanwhile, was thriving, buying cars, investing in properties, flying out on business trips that smelled more like demonic pilgrimages than real entrepreneurship. She noticed things, freshly dug graves every time they visited Kwamthunsi. Her baby's resting places disturbed. Malusi refusing to let them sleep over. His old bedroom always locked. Then came the dreams. In her sleep, she met Malusi's mother, or rather, something wearing her like a memory. The ghost wore the same stained dress and revealed that Malusi had killed her. "Go to my room," the ghost said. "Free your womb before it's too late." The next morning, Ayanda took Malusi's spare keys and told him she was visiting her mother. He barely looked up from his phone. She drove 7 hours to Kwamthunsi. Fear danced down her spine like spiders as she approached the house. The only ones home were his blind uncle, Becky, and Becky's wife, Namaliso, an unstable woman who talked to walls and licked doorknobs. When Ayanda said she came for Malusi's room, Normalizo panicked. She tried to stop her, then locked herself and Becky in their room like children hiding from monsters. Ayanda prayed and unlocked the door. The stench hit her fast, rot, incense, and death. In the center of the room sat a tiny hut no bigger than a doghouse. Inside it coiled a massive serpent, its scales glistening like wet coal. A beard, yes, a beard, hung from its chin like it was the spiritual grandfather of all serpents. On its head rested Ayanda's missing underwear, still stained with her menstrual blood. On the walls, her picture. Malusi's mother's picture. On the floor is the remains of her babies. Bones as small as broken twigs, arranged like offerings at a shrine. The cast dress lay over them like a burial shroud. The snake watched her with half-lidded eyes, pulsing with dark energy, but it was weak. She was stronger. Ayanda fell to her knees and screamed out prayers, shaking the house with her voice. She burned the dress. She broke every binding she could think of. And she left. She went to the local police, then fled to her mother's house. She never saw Malusi again. He never called. Never showed up. Just vanished. Like smoke sucked into a crack in the world. The mansion now stands empty, crawling with weeds. Nobody knows where he is. The last anyone heard, Becky got his sight back. Normalizo? Perfectly sane. And Ayanda. She gave birth to a healthy baby boy, alive, kicking, and very much full of blood. He's 2 now. Happy. She's still technically married, but her husband. A phantom. A curse that walked away. As for the ghost of Malusi's mother, perhaps she too is finally at peace. For more mysteries from the Motherland, hit that like button, subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a tale. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and beware, some legends are more than just stories.